Before I begin this review, I feel I should provide some background for those who don't know about Herobrine. Herobrine is a creepypasta from the game Minecraft, in which a mob, or NPC, similar to the player's appearance, was allegedly spotted in-game. The only difference was that he had solid white eyes. It was said that he would interact with the player's world in strange ways, such as clearing all leaves off trees, building pyramids of sand in the ocean, or even destroying the player's creations. Although it's been confirmed that Herobrine never was in the game by the developer Notch, the popularity surrounding him has perpetuated to this day, and many have created fan maps and stories regarding the character. Most people seem to use him as a sort of main antagonist for their stories, or as some great enemy that they fight at the end of the map. However, most of them miss what Herobrine is really all about: fear. The idea that there was an entity watching you from afar, doing who knows what, was really creepy, and it's this fear and mystery surrounding him that spawned all of this intrigue and popularity. So when I found the first Haunting of Herobrine film created by Half-Life 390, I was instantly hooked on the Herobrine creepypasta. Now the first film is really short, so there isn't much I can talk about. When the sequel finally came out, it had been a few years since I had seen the first, so I rewatched it to see if it was as good as I remembered. And for the most part, it was. It was made by only two people who I believe were in middle school at the time, yet it's still really well done. The story is about a paranormal investigator investigating the home of a man who believes that it's haunted. Again, it's only a short film, so I can't really say much more than that without spoiling a good portion of it. In regards to the soundtrack, there is a rather large amount of silence, and since the beginning is rather slow for the first few minutes, it can seem rather boring at times. However, it makes up for it with fairly decent scares, at least for someone who doesn't normally watch horror-related content. And the build-up to them is done well despite its short runtime by gradually increasing the intensity of the scenes. That's not to say it's terrifying or that it'll make you jump out of your seat, but it's enough to at least give you chills. It also has no voice acting, instead using subtitles to tell the story. This can be rather awkward at times, as it makes it difficult to convey the emotions of the characters. The original video amassed a huge following and gained over 2 million views. Unfortunately, the video was hit with a copyright claim and taken down. Half-Life 390 uploaded a director's cut of the film a few months later, but since most people had already seen it, it now only has a little over 9,000 views as of me writing this. It's a real shame that this fan film has fallen into obscurity because of a false copyright claim. After finishing the first film, its popularity encouraged Half-Life 390 to create a sequel, and he set to work. However, it would be a while before we ever got to see it. Due to the many rewrites of the script and even rebuilding the map a few times, coupled with getting voice recordings and editing, the film took 5 years to complete. Many weren't sure it would ever come out, but I can definitely say that it was worth the wait. Everything was improved upon, from the story to the atmosphere. There's a lot more to talk about here since the film is nearly 2.5 hours long. Because of this, I'll divide my thoughts into specific categories that I'll discuss individually. The story is a huge improvement compared to the original, due to it now being much more apparent. It focuses on John Parker, the son of the investigator from the first film, who follows in his footsteps by investigating a haunted hotel. At first, it's just an ordinary haunting, but he soon learns that he got a lot more than he bargained for. There are a few additions to the story that weren't in the original film, but they all improve the overall quality of the series and help to provide direction for the plot. The lore is really deep, and it took me 2 viewings to catch most of everything that Half-Life 390 put into the film. He also included several secrets as well, and they were a personal obsession of mine for a while as I contemplated what some of them could mean for a few weeks. It's clear that a lot of effort was put into making the story incredibly entertaining and complex instead of just being an afterthought in exchange for more spooky, scary jump scares with no build-up. Of course, a good film needs a fitting musical score as well. The music fits excellently in this film. The music is mostly made up of pieces by Kevin MacLeod, a royalty-free composer who creates music of all kinds for people to use. Every single piece adds to the overall atmosphere of the film, and is a great improvement on the mostly non-existent score of the first film. Each of them is very ominous and chilling, and they send shivers down your spine whenever you hear them. At least, that's how it felt for me. The timing of the music was also top-notch, a stellar job overall. The next thing to note is that there's voice acting this time around. I was a bit worried at first when I saw the trailer, but the voice acting came out better than expected. Each of the voice actors deliver their lines well for the most part, and the ability to listen and watch the film helps the story flow much smoother than if I had to stop and read what was on the screen. The voice actors themselves aren't phenomenal. At times, it felt like more emotion could have been put into their delivery, but they did well enough to where it didn't sound cringy, with a few exceptions, and it didn't really detract from my enjoyment of the film. However, there are still problems with it. For the voice of John Parker, Vogt Scott, his mic quality sounded the lowest out of everyone. You can hear a bit of echo in almost every line he says, and it's something I feel that could be fixed easily by recording in a closet or a room that's small and doesn't have a lot of reverberation.
So, what have you heard about the hotel so far?
Not much at all. An old man in the local pub on the mainland. He said that this place is a paranormal hotspot.
Another voice actor I had some issues with was Electromite, the voice of Pablo. There are a few times where it sounds like he either forgot or just got hung up on a line, since they end up breaking the flow of the dialogue from time to time. This makes the fact that he's reading from a script more obvious compared to everyone else.
That's quite a story. It's good how you're trying to carry on your father's legacy, but it's funny how you mentioned Herobrine.
How so?
Well, some of the apparitions that have been cited here over the years are often described as wearing blue clothing and have no noticeable facial features except two bright white eyes, no pupils, or nothing. What's even stranger is that there are even reports as far back as the time when the mine was here in full service.
In the future, try doing multiple takes anytime you feel you may have flubbed a line or messed up your delivery to avoid this problem. Overall, the voice acting was fine, but it was the only part of the film that felt amateurish and can definitely be improved upon. At times throughout the film, mostly in the beginning, there's an issue with audio balancing. The biggest examples of this are when Pablo and John are walking outside, and the background noises make it next to impossible to understand what's being said. This is mostly done intentionally whenever they're discussing something that isn't important to the story as a form of transition, but other times it covers up dialogue by Pablo explaining the layout of the hotel, as well as things that employees have seen, which I felt were important enough that they should have been made easier to hear by cutting down on the sounds of the wind and insects a little.
The hotel was built using wood from the surrounding forests and supports the environment by recycling. As you can see, the site is littered with logging huts and tool sheds.
Yes, I saw some of them on the way in.
One of the groundkeepers said that they saw lighting coming from some of these huts. Some of them are old and not used anymore. They don't even have electricity running through them, so the source of light is unknown.
Huh. How bizarre.
However, the sound design for everything else was great and extremely well done. Just like the music, Half-Life 390 enhances the atmosphere of the film with quiet yet unsettling audio cues during the build-up to major scenes, foreboding tunes that play during shots that establish the setting, and disturbing and chilling sounds for when the tension is at its peak. The best examples are whenever Herobrine is involved. His presence alone is chilling, but the unnatural sounds that he produces make him even more terrifying. The camera work of the film is done mostly from a third-person perspective this time around, compared to the mostly first-person view of the first. Half-Life 390 angles the camera in ways that provide great views of both the environment and setting during establishing shots, while also craftily obscuring people and objects during moments building up to important reveals or scares. In the beginning, the camera would often remain on a scene for a few seconds after everyone has left the shot. The intention behind this is to give the viewer ample time to examine the scene, as there are quite a few things hidden in the background. Although, some scenes feel like they held for about half a second too long and can make the first few minutes of the film feel a little drawn out.
This is where you will be staying.
The only real error I saw is in regards to the scene direction where, during one shot on the beach, we see John walking along the shoreline going off to the left, but in the next shot he's moving to the right, and in the shot after that he's moving to the left again. Other than that, there are no issues to speak of. This film was great. It was something that I had been waiting for years to see, and it exceeded all of my expectations. The atmosphere is set up brilliantly, making you feel on edge throughout most of the film and creating tension instead of bombarding the viewer with jump scares, while also intriguing you with the complex story being told. Another thing that I'd like to mention is just how massive and detailed the maps for this film are. The hotel is absolutely gigantic. From the shots we see, it's safe to assume that every single room is completely furnished and has something in it. Half-Life 390 put a lot of love and dedication into everything about this film, and it definitely shows. I would highly recommend for you to see these two films. Even if you don't play Minecraft, this film is so well done that you should be able to find some enjoyment from it. Although it isn't perfect, I still thoroughly enjoy these films, and it makes me excited to see what he does next.